Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Corinne Roth-Schaefer's victory as Miss World in 1959 marked an important moment in the history of the beauty pageant, strengthening its international presence and promoting the inclusion of different cultures in global media. This era reinforced beauty standards and the influence of media in valuing these images. A child trying to board for the Caribbean, shown by an anxious expression, reveals the experience of Spanish immigrants in the 1960s, a time of strong migration because of the search for better living conditions, especially in Spain, which faced economic difficulties. In the 1960s, Raquel Welch appears in a photo shoot in a rocky setting, wearing a beach outfit typical of the visual promotion of the time. The image shows how studios and magazines promoted Hollywood stars through outdoor portraits, striking fashion, and compositions made to circulate in movie materials. In 1934, the Schönbrunn Hospital near Dachau reflected policies of exclusion and social isolation that prevailed in Germany at that time. The presence of children with Down syndrome in this context shows practices of segregation and abusive procedures that contributed to serious human rights violations in the following years. During World War II, photographs captured moments that humanized soldiers, such as a member of the Red Army carrying a kitten, highlighting the mix between the harshness of the setting and moments of tenderness. These images reinforce the emotional complexity faced by those involved in that global conflict. Men from a German regiment wearing 1915 war uniforms read letters from their families among trees in an outdoor setting, marking the longing and effort of soldiers during World War I. That war set the stage for new global conflicts, shaping the 20th century. During World War II, the Colosseum in Italy remained a symbol of the glory and decline of the Roman Empire, facing destruction while serving as a setting for military activities. Its preservation influenced post-war reconstruction and historic preservation efforts. The figure of a bearded man in old clothing recalls a period when conflicts between settlers and indigenous peoples marked territorial expansion. His story, associated with extreme frontier accounts, reflects a chapter of violence and resistance that shaped the borders of the American West in the 19th century. The transport of German military personnel captured by Moscow in 1944 illustrates Soviet mobilization against opposing forces after the Red Army offensive. This episode reinforces the impact of the conflict on Russian leadership and its determination to defeat the troops of the German regime at that crucial moment. The expansion of the Italian Empire in 1941 reflected the ambition to consolidate territories in North Africa, influencing alliances and military strategies during World War II. The preparation and mobilization shown highlight the importance of colonial control in European politics of the period. During the Spanish Civil War in 1937, a young woman with short hair and a neutral expression symbolized the hope of a generation facing strong tensions in Catalonia. Disputes between different political groups shaped crucial moments in the history of Barcelona and Spain. During the German presence in France, the Louvre, a cultural symbol of Paris, stood empty and had very limited access. This phase marked a period of interruption for heritage, reflecting the impact of the conflict on traditional institutions and their importance to national identity. The meeting in Crimea during the 1940s marked one of the most decisive conferences of World War II, where Allied leaders discussed war strategies and the future after the war. This meeting strengthened alliances and outlined actions against the Axis, shaping the global future. In the British occupation zone of Vienna in 1949, the selection of an actor to portray the German leader reflected the effort of cultural reconstruction after World War II. This phase marked the attempt to portray historical settings and understand the complex consequences of the German regime in Europe. The taking of the old part of Jerusalem in 1967 marked a decisive moment in Israeli history, as it consolidated Israel's administration of the city after decades of tension. The members of the group played an important role in retaking historic sacred sites. The presence of the German submarine U-118 on the beach at Hastings in 1919 symbolizes the impact of World War I on the English coast, highlighting a moment of transition from war to peace. The shortage of enemy ships after the conflict caused strategic changes and strengthened British maritime defense. During World War I, technological innovation drove the use of large military equipment, such as this model that played a decisive role in operations in France in 1918. This evolution reinforced the intensity of the conflict and accelerated changes in global military strategy. In central Kabul, a black and white scene shows residents wearing period clothing, pointing to a time before the 1980s. This era in Afghanistan's history was marked by intense political and social conflicts, setting the stage for deep changes in society. Mining activities marked 19th century expansion in the United States, driving the economy and migration in western regions such as Nevada. In Virginia City, the search for gold and silver created a society of exhausted workers, often exposed to poor conditions still shown today by period photography. In the late 19th century, the claim of an escape revealed the difficulties faced by explorers in the Yukon region who sought gold in the Klondike Gold Rush that began in 1896. This intense search drove infrastructure development and attracted many adventurers, shaping the region's history. During the early 20th century, the search for gold in Fairplay, Colorado, represented a crucial phase in United States mineral exploration. This activity encouraged the development of communities and contributed to the region's economic expansion, marking an important moment in the country's mining history. The discovery of Caligula's vessels in Lake Nemi in 1932 marked a major advance in Roman archaeology, making it possible to better understand navigation patterns and imperial power in ancient Italy. These ships reflect the grandeur of first-century Rome and its naval innovation. The discovery of Tutankhamun's sarcophagus in 1922 opened a new era in Egyptology, revealing never-before-seen details of one of ancient Egypt's most iconic figures. This discovery strengthened global interest in Egyptian history, encouraging studies and exhibitions that shaped the understanding of pharaonic culture. The lack of water at Niagara Falls in 1969 revealed the rocks and riverbed, raising environmental concerns that encouraged studies and preservation actions. This temporary condition showed the importance of water balance and the need to conserve this iconic tourist site. Amelia Earhart, an aviation pioneer, poses beside her twin-engine Friendship in Newfoundland in 1928, a milestone in history for expanding the limits of women in aviation. Her courage helped open paths for future female aviators and strengthened transoceanic flights as human achievements. The Lincoln Futura prototype, rejected in 1955, gained attention when it became the iconic Batmobile in the 1966 series, marking an innovation in futuristic design inspired by 1950s style. This transformation reflected the growth of pop culture and the importance of stylized vehicles in media. In the 1980s, Freddie Mercury stood out as a music icon, shaping rock history with legendary performances and a unique voice. His versatile personality and intimate moments like this reinforce his connection with fans and his personal environment, reflecting the culture of the time. The late 1970s marked the peak of punk and new wave, styles that Debbie Harry embodied with her unique energy while leading Blondie, a band that changed music with hits that influenced generations. This era represented an important cultural transformation in the music scene. Production of the Apple II computer, a symbol of the technology revolution, took place in California during the 1980s, marking a crucial phase in the popularization of personal computers and driving the technology industry. This initiative contributed to the progress of computing and access to home computers. During the filming of The Empire Strikes Back, in the icy setting of Finse, Norway, actress Carrie Fisher enjoys a break lying on a snowmobile. The 1979 record captures behind the scenes of the space production in an extreme, isolated landscape on Earth. Princeton's 1929 innovation reflected technological progress in the movie industry, marking the beginning of projects that combined music and visual playback devices. This development encouraged more immersive experiences and helped strengthen movie screenings as a form of mass entertainment at the time. In the 1920s, Harold Lloyd stood out as one of the greatest comedians of silent film, using memorable stunt scenes and visual humor. His work in movies such as Safety Last helped establish physical comedy as an art form, influencing generations and the evolution of cinema. Max Schreck, the actor who became famous for his role as the vampire Nosferatu, symbolizes the popular rise of expressionist cinema in Germany in the 1920s. His performance influenced the development of horror in film, marking a time of artistic and technical innovation in movie history. Pelé, at 17 years old, was already showing his talent at the 1958 World Cup in Sweden, an event that marked the rise of Brazilian soccer on the world stage. This victory was essential in revealing one of the greatest legends of the sport and boosted Brazil's image as a soccer powerhouse. In 1963, Muhammad Ali, then a world boxing champion, enjoyed a relaxed moment in London with friends, reflecting his global impact and his role in popular culture. His presence highlighted the growth of the sport and African-American influence at the time. Elsie Connor, a standout in women's boxing in 1931, symbolizes the rise of women in sports during an era of strong social resistance to change. Her presence reinforces female pioneering and marks a crucial step toward gender equality in athletic competitions. Eugene Sandow, considered the father of bodybuilding, was a central figure in the evolution of muscle standards in the early decades of the 20th century. His image reflects the push to promote strength and body aesthetics, influencing training practices that shape the sport to the present day. The light-skinned man with short hair shows a face whose beard is made of bees in a black and white photo that recalls the 1960s. That decade marked advances in experimental photography and artistic expression, challenging traditional ideas of portraiture and exploring the relationship between humans and nature. In the early years of the 20th century, experimenting with appearance became a way to challenge traditional perceptions. The figure of someone painting a third eye on an unusual-looking face shows this search for innovation and humor, reflecting creativity that was still uncommon in art and entertainment. In the 1930s, New York emerged as a symbol of innovation and prosperity, marked by the construction of iconic skyscrapers. The height of Art Deco and the completion of innovative works established the city as a global financial center, reflecting technological advances and the modern spirit of the time. The construction of a telephone tower in Stockholm in 1890 symbolizes the rise of modern communications in the early 20th century, becoming a milestone in the country's technological history. Its iron structure with antennas represents progress toward new forms of signal transmission, essential for urban development. While checking the structure of iron lattice radio towers, workers in period clothing with hand tools show the expansion phase of communication in the 1920s, marking technical progress that made it easier to connect remote regions of the United States and the world. London public transportation in 1865 reflected the growth of the industrial city, with horse-drawn omnibuses becoming essential for urban mobility. This innovation supported urban expansion and commerce, helping establish London as a modern and influential metropolis at the time. The change of lighthouse keepers at Bishop Rock in the Isles of Scilly reveals the importance of navigation in the region, a milestone in maritime safety that encouraged improvements in lighthouse architecture and technology in the first half of the 20th century, providing greater protection for local sea routes. In the 1920s, Philadelphia was going through rapid urban changes after World War I, becoming a center of economic and cultural growth. The presence of mechanical signals reflected technological progress, and the police structure reinforced order in a quickly expanding city. Managing urban safety during the 1930s involved officers with long, heavy uniforms, felt hats, and two-wheeled vehicles with classic designs, marking a phase of growing organization in New York and reflecting a period of greater social tension and progress in maintaining order. Beside the Niagara River, the Rainbow Bridge connects Canada to the United States, while old vehicles and the clothing style reveal the mid-1950s, a period marked by economic progress after World War II, reflecting advances in infrastructure and international mobility. Looking at the area around the new United States Embassy, one can see a mix of modern and classical architecture that reflects the country's economic and political growth throughout the 20th century. This evolution strengthened its global presence, symbolizing power and international influence. During the early 20th century, indigenous soldiers such as the Oglala warrior named Red Hawk in the Badlands region of North Dakota represented cultural resistance and faced the westward expansion of the United States. His posture and setting highlight a deep connection to the land and ancestral traditions. In the 19th century, the life of indigenous peoples in the Minnesota region was marked by preserved traditions and a strong connection to nature, as shown by the teepees and traditional clothing. These communities played a fundamental role in United States history before the arrival of settlers and assimilation policies. In the early 20th century, Uganda began to strengthen its national identity and establish government institutions reflected in its colonial architecture and the presence of old vehicles. This important phase contributed to the country's formation, highlighting its colonial history and efforts toward independence. Starting in 1920, the daily life of women in central Spain reflected traditional practices such as washing clothes in the river near the Alcazar of Segovia, a Renaissance symbol that shaped local history by strengthening its strategic and cultural position, witnessing the continuity of old ways of life. The scene shows mining workers on a rocky hillside wearing work clothes and wide-brimmed hats, using traditional tools such as a hammer and trowel. This description recalls mining activities in the 19th century, when manual mining drove economic development and territorial expansion in Brazil. In the 19th century, the growth of beverage factories and the expansion of trade drove businesses such as B.T. Pierce and Company and the Denver Brewing Company, reflecting the tradition of producing and distributing these products in the interior United States, which was important for the regional economy. In Saratoga Springs, businessmen play cards in a room with simple wooden furniture, wearing formal clothing and wide hats, highlighting a time of economic and social growth in the United States during the 1870s, marked by industrial expansion and the consolidation of leisure spaces. Outdoor dancing in Clifton, Arizona in the 1880s reflected the importance of social gatherings on the American frontier during the 19th century, when communities grew stronger through gathering in simple places, where mobility and westward expansion encouraged a culture centered on connection and community unity. In the late 19th century, the photo shows a sod schoolhouse in the woods of Woods County, Oklahoma, a symbol of pioneer education on the American frontier. The presence of children in simple clothing and a teacher reinforces the effort to establish schools in remote areas, and the rough architecture highlights the infrastructure challenges of the time. The Old Stone Line in the Vermont region shows colonial history and traditional farming practices. Multi-story buildings reflect the growth of institutions such as Middlebury College, marked by events that encouraged education and social formation in the early 20th century in the United States. In the late 19th century, immigration in the Lower East Side drove the growth of workplaces such as factories and workshops, where low-income families, many of them newly arrived, dedicated themselves to handmade production of goods, a routine essential for their survival amid the hardships of the time. Men wearing heavy fabric clothing, flat caps, and leather shoes represent 1920s urban fashion, reflecting a period of greater urbanization in that decade. Consumption restrictions outside the United States encouraged cultural and social changes, influencing urban behavior at the time. During the early 20th century, the formality of clothing reflected strict social hierarchies and the importance of fashion in communicating status. These images marked a phase of modernization in Brazilian institutions, which sought to strengthen their cultural and academic identity. In the early 20th century, fashion reflected a changing society, marked by the elegance of men with buns, top hats, and formal suits, and women with wide hats and detailed clothing. This era was crucial for strengthening social conventions and the evolution of urban fashion. In the early 20th century, outdoor events in old cities attracted many people to fashion and leisure festivals, reflecting social and cultural changes. Period swimwear showed standards of elegance and modesty, marking a phase of change in body expression and women's freedom in public spaces. In Glasgow's Gorbals in 1968, the scene shows elderly women in elegant 1960s clothing enjoying sherry in a pub with wooden furniture and soft lighting. This record captures the social routine of that time, marked by the strengthening of the civil rights movement and cultural changes. In the 1950s, nightlife areas like the one in Palma reflected a society shaped by social changes and economic challenges in post-war Europe. These places show the impact of conservative policies and social control, influencing the lives and rights of the women who worked in those spaces to this day. In the 1930s, animal preservation and care efforts began to gain attention, reflecting growing concern for wildlife protection. The scene of a caretaker spraying penguins shows closeness and the effort to provide well-being for animals in captivity. During the 1950s, visits from clowns and Santa Claus to children's hospitals brought joy and hope to families, reflecting a tradition of charitable actions at that time. This initiative helped strengthen community and humanitarian spirit during a period of post-war recovery. Workers at the Hershey factory dedicate themselves to wrapping each chocolate by hand before automation was implemented around 1937. This handmade step reflected a production process that valued care and quality, making chocolate a symbol of innovation and tradition in the United States. At the height of the 1930s, zebra-drawn carriages were common in Calcutta, reflecting the diversity of transportation in the British colonial city. This innovation showed local options in response to the limits of motor vehicles at the time, marking a period of transition in urban transportation. In the 1930s and 1940s, urban growth was marked by businesses with brick facades and traditional signs, reflecting the expansion of commerce and the rise of advertising. This period was key to strengthening mass consumption and city development. In the early years of the 20th century, Mark Twain, an icon of American literature, shared moments of rest on a porch in New Hampshire, symbolizing the start of a new era in the United States, marked by cultural and technological advances, while his work influenced debates about national identity and social progress. The man in a dark suit in a classic setting represents a figure that recalls the Victorian era, marked by the emergence of characters such as Sherlock Holmes, created by Arthur Conan Doyle. This figure symbolizes the era when the detective became a worldwide icon, influencing crime fiction. In the old appearance of a sepia-toned photograph, traditional Appalachian musicians play instruments outdoors while a dog watches from the porch of a rustic house. This memory captures the cultural value of folk music in preserving regional roots, strengthening traditions passed down from generation to generation. Sepia-toned photos reveal everyday moments in the early 20th century when fossil filter cameras captured family scenes. During this period, photography began to become popular, reflecting the desire for family records and the technological progress that made it possible to preserve memories for generations. In the late 19th century, black and white photographs captured family moments, reflecting the value of flowers and social life at the time. The simplicity of the clothing reveals a transitional era marked by advances in photography that made it possible to record everyday details with greater realism. A man wearing a long coat, tie, and old hat, typical of the 19th century or early 20th century, is highlighted by artificial lighting at night. The texture of the photo with a vintage look suggests an old image, evoking the atmosphere of an era marked by social changes and technological advances. A woman with dark curly hair, wearing a black long-sleeved blouse and dark skirt, appears in a photo with bright colors and modern clothing, suggesting the 1990s. That era marked cultural and artistic progress that influenced fashion and personal expression. The marathon race at Windsor Castle in London in 1908 reflects a time of transition in sports practice, with traditional clothing, old carriages, and gaslighting, marked by advances in the organization of public events and the use of historic architectural elements that define the urban scene of the time. In 1984, meetings between public figures often marked important social moments, reflecting the attention given to formal fashion at the time, with elegant dresses and tuxedos. The presence of prominent guests, such as members of royalty or celebrities, showed the importance of these events in building social and cultural networks. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.